How about we'll stand for our prayer to begin? In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, give us the light to know your will, and then give us the strength to get it done. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. Our last conference, it was a good day. That's the only one of the songs that has a couple of little bit fresh things in it. And I'm sorry if you look it up. A little bit of rated R stuff in that song. The other ones though, I left my wallet in El Segundo is a clean song. Okay, I promise. It's and the other ones are pretty good. Okay, that one's a little bit. Come on, what do you want? It's Ice Cube. What do you want? That's how he does things. Okay, is about learning to surrender daily. Now, if you caught it, basically the 4 conferences are structured. 1, the idea of surrender and why we should. The second one was looking at our present and what holds us back in our daily life to surrender. The third was to look at our past. So logically, the only thing left is now to look at our future and to see how to carry surrender forward. One of the things that, to look again about surrender, though, is what? Is to say, oh, so I'm supposed to be a slave now. Well, no. It's not about giving up your free will. It's not about joining a cult. And isn't that the number one thing people who don't do religion say? Oh, religion is all about rules, 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 rules. No. C.S. Lewis, in The Weight of Glory, his essay, The Weight of Glory, was a talk originally he summarizes it beautifully. He says, no, it's that you need the rules because then they will lead you to love. The Old Testament law leads you to the gospel. Your grammar, when you learned it in school, was there so that you could then learn how to read poetry. Your training, when you learn a skill, eventually gives you proficiency. In other words, you need a beginning to reach further on. Anybody here who learned how to drive, when you first learned how to drive, what was the hardest part? Keeping it all in your head at the same time. Watch the brakes, and then I have to look at this, and there's a sign. What does that mean? Left or right? Oh my God, can I start here? Is this far enough? There's a car behind me. I can't rush, right? And some of you would panic and go, I'm just going to wait, right? But what happens? Once you learn how to drive, you no longer think that. You've integrated all those rules. Does that mean you're breaking them? No, I hope not, for the most part. But you certainly shouldn't be having accidents. So once you integrate them, when you learned how to read, it was very frustrating. When you could use it to read something, it's very illuminating. So it's not about a slave because you're joining a cult. It's about rules because they'll let you love. And so what about slavery? Well, St. Louis de Montfort, a couple of his books are back there, talks about holy slavery to marry. I love him because he's so in your face about it. We have to be slaves to marry. Boom, just like that. Slaves, and I'm your slave, man. And I'm like, wow, who talks like that? But it's a willing submission. It's not a forced slavery. And that's the difference between the person who lives a life of sin, where they have to, and the person who chooses to walk with God. And so it's not about that. It's a willing, freely choosing to put your will under God's will. Why? Well, because he's your heavenly Father and he loves you. That was the first thing we looked at. God loves you. So I can trust him. John, and by the way, what did I say? Christ is our example? Well, here it is again. John chapter 14, verse 31. The world must know that I love the Father and will do everything to please him. That's Jesus himself saying it. Our model. John 14, 31. No, the Gospel of John. John 14, 31. I'm going to repeat something we've said a few times now. You'll see they start coming together again. It's important to keep this one. Surrender. Remember, when I said, how are we going to surrender from now on from the retreat, right? I'm trying to be a good person. I came from retreat. I get home, and somebody makes me angry. On the way home, somebody makes me angry. Because surrender is not a passive surrender. You're not doing anybody any favors by just laying there and saying, okay, Jesus, do whatever you want. That is not helpful to your salvation. You got to carry the cross, not lay under the cross. Okay? Take up your cross daily, not kind of lay there and just lay next to it and be like, okay. You got to pick it up and get up the mountain with it. So it's carry your cross. It's not a passive giving up. It's an active looking for the will of God to get it done. And that's the secret to giving it up daily, is to keep looking for it. And that's the biggest mistake people who do walk with God make, right? People who don't walk with God, it's like, why am I supposed to do this? It's hard for them. People who do walk with God, the mistake is what? I made a decision, good. This sounds like God. That was wrong. Okay, so now you get a decision with God. Okay, good. And then they keep walking. What happens? Well, if you only look at the GPS once when you leave your destination, you're going to pass the turn. Okay? Until you get somewhere, you're like, Father, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Why did it go? What happened? Well, God wants you to go this way now. Well, we should have checked. I mean, the fault is yours. There's nobody else's fault. So you have to keep asking. The fruit of daily surrender, again, this is a summary, we went over this, is what? Your peace. Because your relationship will be growing. So you'll start feeling at peace. Does that mean you don't care about stuff? No. Does that mean you never get upset? No. Does that mean you're not interested in what happens to the people around? No. What it means is that you embrace what's happening as something from God. So it will upset you. The storms will come, but you will have tranquility. I'm giving you an anchor to get through the storm. I'm not saying there ain't going to be none. And that's a big myth we all buy into. So you ask in each moment what God has for you. Ask him often. Going back to abandonment to divine providence, what did he say? It's like a father who holds out a candy for his child. Sometimes the candy is in the palm and it's open, so the kid walks over and grabs it. And I did this with my nieces and my nephew. I did this because I'm a weirdo and I'm doing theology with little babies. I don't know what kind of uncle am I, but I'm doing it with them when they're little. I'm like, come here. And I let them see the candy. They come over, they grab it, they walk away happy. They come over, they grab it. Sometimes I close my hand. I do it slow so they see me do it. So they look at me, they come over, they look around, right? And you've all seen them do this. And they start pulling the fingers open little by little. And then they grab the candy and they walk away fine. Other times I go here and they haven't seen me put the candy in. But they've learned from the other experiences, you probably got candy. So they come over, they open the fingers, they find the candy, and they go. The principle is they learn to trust me even when they can't see exactly what I'm offering them. God does the exact same thing. And in abandonment, literally, that's one of the basic lessons he teaches. He says, God does that. Sometimes he gives a gift to you that's easy to see. That's what we call joy, right? Happy moments. Like, oh, I went to a retreat, it was great. That's an easy blessing to receive. Sometimes your blessing is much, much harder because someone is diagnosed with some disease. Where's the blessing? It's there. You might have to open his fingers. It's there. But you have to receive each moment, and you have to keep asking for the grace to do it because it's easy to forget. It's easy to get frustrated. Nobody's saying you can't get frustrated. I'm not saying you make one decision, you get to heaven. Just like you don't make one turn and get to New York. Get out of the gate, make a left, and then just keep going. You'll make it about 200 yards before you drive onto somebody's lawn, because that's right there. You can't make one turn, but a lot of us try that, right? Now, I said this the first night, the first conference. Here's time for the present. I said to you... Ready? Here's the present that I said I was going to give to you. We were going to talk about relationships. Your relationship with God is a theme for surrender, okay? And you're in a relationship with God. So this is the thing. Are you ready? Okay, remember when I talked about silence before the first conference? I said silence is not just physical. Silence is emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual, it's silence of your mouth, your hands, your eyes, your everything. Why? Because if you know someone well enough, you can make a sign to them without opening your mouth, with your eyes. You can make a sign with them without your eyes, with your face. You can make a sign with them without your eyes, without your face, without looking or facing in their direction with a body gesture if they know it, and you know it, if you know each other well enough. You can stand in a certain way, right? I correct someone on the retreat getting on the elevator, and they're like, no, whatever. And they get on the elevator in front of me, I go, the person behind me, they're going to go, ooh, you know, because they're going to catch it. And not a big move, not a big gesture, but it's a small thing, but they'll catch it. I'm sending out a signal, and it's being received. That's silence, right? You got me so far? It's going to hurt. You ready? Why do you ask for signs from God if you're not close enough to catch them? If you're in a really close relationship, you'll catch them. If you're in a really close relationship with somebody, I could just do something, I'd be like, and they'll catch it. But if you're in a relationship with God, if you don't talk to God very often, he, poor son of a gun, is giving you signs left and right. He's like, and you're like, Jesus won't talk to me. He's like, How do you know? You don't speak to him. Hind's Feet on High Places is another book back there. It's a novel, and one of the themes of the novel is learning the language of heaven. She wants to get to heaven, but the shepherd, Jesus obviously, the shepherd says to her, well, you have to learn the language before you... She goes, I don't know it. He goes, you got a lot of time before you get up the mountain. Don't worry about it. Well, as you get up the mountain, they will teach you. These will be your two friends. They'll teach you. Who are her two friends? Sorrow and suffering. She's like, I don't want them. And he's like, well, these are the ones I've chosen. You don't trust me? She's like, nope, you must have made a mistake. She's great. She's like, you must have made a mistake. He's like, if you don't want to hold their hands, they'll just walk with you. She goes, I can walk up. They can be there, but I don't want to touch them. He's like, okay. But over time, the trail gets harder, and she has to lean on sorrow or suffering.
But as she goes, they don't speak. She goes, why don't they talk? And he says, you can't understand what they're saying. You haven't learned the language of heaven yet. Eventually, she begins to learn words in heaven. So here's the funny one. Here's the horrifying one. What if God is talking to you the way I'm speaking right now, but you don't understand because you haven't spoken to him enough to learn his language of love? That's why a relationship is important. So many people look for signs, and I wonder how many are sent to God. Trust me, once you learn his language, you're going to wish he shut up. Some people have that cross. They're like, Father, I don't want to hear it anymore. Leave me alone. I'm like, yeah, some people would trade with you right now. They'd be like, oh my God, can I sit there? Can I be that person? Because they're looking for a sign, and you're getting so many you don't want to listen. But you have to listen. You have to learn. Sometimes we want a sign, and we don't want it. Some of you are laughing at one joke, and some of you laughed at the other joke. So how can you learn the signs from Christ if you don't learn his language? You have to learn it. Okay, so the first thing we talked about, the first point, if you will, is about daily surrender. Now let's talk about the second thing, if you want to go into categories, this one, virtue. Okay, virtue. Very often, Pope Benedict used to teach this way, and JP2 used to teach this way a lot, which is they were teachers, and they were taught in a certain way, so they taught the way they were when they were teachers, both of them. So what do? They explain their terms before they use them. Ready? So we're going to go over what virtue is. We have to grow in virtue. But the thing is a lot of people, I don't know what that means, being fancy and holy. No, listen, stop it. Let's go to the original word. Virtue comes from the Latin word for man, vir. Like you say a man is virile. That means he's manly. Okay? A poison is virulent. It means it's very strong. Okay? So virtue is any good habit that makes you more of a man. Now, ladies, I don't want to be a man. I'm glad. We have enough issues with that in the world right now. We don't need that anymore. You know, I saw a little boy joking around the other day. I want to be Miss New York, because I was with Miss New York at something, Miss Teen New York. I was with her at a dinner. So it was like, I want to be Miss New York. We were all joking around. It was kids. And I was like, now, and everybody got quiet. I was like, I'm just saying, like, 6 months ago, that joke would be funnier. Now it's ha-ha, oh. So what do I mean by this? Be very careful in theology and philosophy in the church, in the history of the church. Be more of a man is not meant to be not a woman. Man versus woman is from the devil. He did it to Adam and Eve. First people, he split them. Right? She blames him, he blames her. Everybody blames everybody else. What we say, make you more of a man as opposed to an animal. Man versus animal is the true struggle. To be more human as opposed to more animal. Okay, it's not being more manly. St. Teresa of Avila constantly writes, be more manly. We have to be manly friends of Jesus. And people are like, oh, what's the matter with her? Listen, you're not more feminist than Teresa of Avila. Trust me, okay? You can't be more. She's so awesome. She has, in some paintings and pictures, a beretta. You know the little hat that I wear for the Latin Mass, and sometimes when I preach in my home parish, you're not allowed to wear that unless you're a priest. It's the teaching of theology. But she was so amazing at theology that the church paints her with a beretta as if she has more theology than a priest. Think about that one. You're not going to beat her for feminism, okay? She's like, what's up, son? I beat them. I beat the boys. Like, she's, Bruce Jenner won Woman of the Year. I don't know how. Wasn't even a woman for a year, but whatever. Wasn't even a woman for a year, But Teresa of Avila could have won Man of the Year, okay? She would have won 15-something Man of the Year, okay? She has the beretta. She's like, what's up? And she says, be manly. We have to be manly friends of Jesus. And people are like, what does that mean? It's not a man-woman thing. You should never have a man-woman thing in your head. That's a brokenness that we have to struggle in relationships. Anybody who's in a romantic relationship knows that. It's that constant nonsense of we're so different, we don't understand. No. You're different because you complement each other. Not because you're different because you don't understand. It's stupid. Guess what? If men don't like women and women don't like men, we're all going to die. Like, we're done. That's not going to happen. This from a guy who's not, okay? But this guy, I really need y'all to have kids. Like, please for me. Like, it's kind of a big deal because that's something I'm not carrying. I'm not carrying that ball, okay? I need somebody else to carry the ball. But it's not man-woman. So, a virtue makes you more of a man. Thomas Aquinas, Aristotle said this 300 years before Jesus. Aquinas he famously said he baptized Aristotle. Aristotle died 1,000 years, before Aquinas. But in the sense of he took Aristotle's ideas and said, these can be used for Christian thought. We've been using it ever since. Philosophy, a lot of philosophy is Greek philosophy that we've been using. Aquinas was the greatest of doing it. Some did it before, but he was the greatest. He said, makes you more of a man. No. Makes you more like the man. And he references, right, who is the true example of man? We were made in the image of God. What was the reflection for after this talk, but we read it this morning? I, who am your God, and you were made in my image, have become your son. You see, there's a beautiful typology in that homily, by the way. Totally typology. And if you know what typology is, you're reading it. It's using one example from the Old Testament for the New Testament, or something like that. Okay? And so Aquinas goes, yeah, be more like the man, more like Christ. Vice is from the Latin word for fault or blemish or weakness. And so the more vices you have, the more weak you are. You with me so far? Okay. What is it? It's a habit. A virtue and a vice are both habits. Either you have good habits or you have bad habits. Good habits we call virtues. Bad habits we call vice. Okay? That's all. So wait, are you saying that if I turn my signal light on before I make a turn, that's a good habit, so that's a virtue? Yes, that's the virtue of good signaling. I don't know. No. It's probably under the virtue of safety and civil authority and civil respect. Because, people die when you do stupid things, right? In a car. So that's a virtue. Look at the book of Proverbs or the book of Wisdom, and you'll see how many things are virtues. Under virtues, do not be, when you're visiting somebody's house, don't be the first to reach out for the meat. It's in the Bible. Like, what does that have to do with religion? Because living well is everything about you. Not just like praying a lot and then being a jerk. Nope. So courtesy is in the Bible. So how do you make a habit then? If I want to make virtues, okay, Father, so then it's a good habit. So then how do I make habits? What's a habit? A habit is simply an action that's repeated enough until it becomes our second nature, until we don't have to think about it. Tying your shoelaces, it's a habit. First time you did it, you had to really think about it, right? Then you got better and better at doing it, okay? And so your virtues are habits, are good habits, and if you repeat them enough, they become more like Christ. Now here's the thing. You need time to repeat something to make it a habit. So here's a fact you have to remember. You were bad at everything when you started. So you're going to be bad at surrender, okay? You might have been good this morning or yesterday evening or Friday night when you're like, yeah, surrender, and you did it. But trust me, you're bad at it already. No, if you did it at Mass, you're like, surrender, you're bad already. No, you know why? Because you're bad at everything you started. Newborn babies are the greatest example of that. Newborn babies are bad at breathing until the doctor hits them. Think about that. They're born and like, and then the doctor goes, ah, and then they get it out. Because they haven't had to breathe air. They never breathe air. Until her water breaks, they don't breathe air. Some of you don't know that, but yeah, babies don't breathe air until their water breaks. Their mom's water breaks. They don't breathe air. So they're like, what? This is bad. And then they're like, oh, it's not so hard. Then they're immediately bad at something else. Immediately. Eating. They're bad at eating. They're like, what? Why are you putting this on my face? What is this? I don't know. I'm not kidding. Ask a first-time mom, and she's like, yep, we struggled with that. They're bad at sleeping. Are you serious? It is like the sweetest nectar. It is the best medicine for everyone, and the richest and the poorest can afford it. Sleep. It's the one thing that outranks food for me. I'm like, food is great, but sleep is more of me is involved. So food is this awesomeness and this awesomeness. Sleep is everything. But they're bad at sleep. You have to hold them and rock them, and they're trying and they're crying, and they're like, I'm so tired. What is happening? I'm going to die if I close my eyes. And then they open up. They're like, that was great. That was amazing. And see, they're bad at, we laugh. I wonder how much the angels laugh at us. He didn't know how to repent. Come on, man, it's easy. Repent. Your guardian, they're like, come on, it's really easy. Just repent, And like we're like, no, that's hard. It takes a while. That's what a baby would say about eating or walking. And now, cute and funny, but here's the serious point. When you fail at your something, whatever good thing you want to do, and you're going to fail. I'm not going to lose my temper anymore. I'm not going to fall in the sin of lust. I'm not going to fall in being willful and want to hold on to my own will. When you fail, and you will, turn back to God quickly. Yeah, but he's mad at me. Wrong. Do you get mad at a baby who's learning how to walk and they fall? You stupid child, and then beat them? You don't. You think, oh no, uh-oh. In fact, what do? You laugh, right, so they don't cry, right? Which is horrible. That's tricking them. You realize, I do it too, but that's terrible. I do it less and less as I go. I harder and harder to trick a baby, because I just feel bad. Like, ha ha ha, laugh. I'm like, tricking them. But whatever. God doesn't do that either. God doesn't get mad at you when you fall, if you're trying. Just get up. Ask for help. He will. He will. The Saint Therese, story of the souls back there. Saint Therese, wonderful saint. Her parents were just canonized. Louis and Zélie Martin. Louis and Zélie Martin. They were her parents. They're canonized, and I love it because they are a true example of the struggle for holiness. One, I love the fact that they're parents and they're married because we need more people like that, honestly. We need more people that are like people realize you can be a saint and be married because a lot of people think you can't. Well, that's for the priests and the nuns. But also, Louis and Zélie, they struggled. You read their life. The grief they had, they lost a bunch of their kids, you know. They depression, almost suicidal tendencies, deep depressions. Lost children, suffered tons, struggled, and eventually reached holiness. So you see, they're great examples, and they raised a couple of holy kids, okay? Because St. Therese is the only canonized one, but trust me, the other ones are Pauline and they're next door. They're up there. They'll be canonized eventually. They managed to do it, but it took them a while, and it took them trusting in each other, actually. But eventually they were able to. But even after they had their kids, it wasn't like, okay, great. No, they struggled. Even after Therese was born, they struggled horribly. And they made holiness, okay? So don't quit. You're going to be bad at this, but don't quit. I want you to develop your virtues. Next point, prayer. How do you develop virtues? How do you develop good habits? Simple. Prayer. This is important. Any prayer done sincerely and regularly will become a habit. Any prayer. So, you know that prayer you think you can't do? No, you just got to make it a habit. Going to Mass on Sundays, I can't do that. I try, but I can't. No, you just have to go. Do it as a chore. Everything begins as a chore or an obligation or an assignment. Everything. Eventually it becomes a rhythm. It's just something I do. But that's not good enough. You keep going, and eventually it becomes a need. It becomes part of you. That's when it's become a virtue, a good habit. You don't go, you feel weird. You're like, something's wrong. Right? Those of you who are used to going to Mass on Sunday mornings, you go on a Saturday because you have to, right? Something comes up, you have to. You feel funny on Sunday, even though you went and you fulfilled your obligation. You're like, yeah, but I feel funny. That's because you've developed the virtue of Sunday Mass. The exact same principle for daily Mass. Daily Mass is a chore. It's hard. It's almost impossible for everybody to do all the time. Fine, but do it a couple times a week. At first it's a chore. Then it becomes a rhythm. That's what I do on Wednesdays. I leave work for lunch and I go to Mass and I come back. Or I leave early that Wednesdays. I wake up once a week early, go to Mass. Then it becomes a need. When you don't, you feel funny. The Rosary, same thing. It's torture. St. Teresa of Avila found the Rosary torturous. She said it was, I hate it. She was like that. She writes it. She's like, I just can't. It's just so hard. It's so mind-numbing. So if you have a hard time with the Rosary, hey, you got good company. But she did it. So it depends on your company. She did do it, though. The Liturgy of the Hours, what we do for morning and evening prayer, you can do it. Where can I get it, Father? On your phone. I used to say buy the book, but you can get it on your phone. I don't know how to pray it. Trust me, a phone will have it, and it does it for you. Do nothing. Click on the day. Today's day? Yes, today's day. Boop, comes right up. Okay? The readings we had, those were from the Office of Readings. There's a little longer than what I gave you, but it has that. Then you have morning prayer, we just did it. You did evening prayer, you've done night prayer. The only one we didn't do during the retreat is daytime prayer, which is like a baby version of morning prayer. It's like night prayer. It's really short. Remember how short night prayer is like a couple minutes and that's it? It's very short. Daytime prayer is like that. It's like boop and you're done. But you can do the Liturgy of the Hours. Daily Mass, all of these things will become part of you and they'll become a virtue. They'll become a habit if you let them. So now what? Now let's get specific now in terms of what we're going to do for our future. Okay, because I went from first God's love and our relationship. Then we looked a little bit at virtue. And then we looked at prayer that will help you get the virtue that will help you develop in the love for God. So how do we do it now? Ready? Specifics. 1, decide how much time you're going to give God each day. Make it a time. If you have to look at your watch when you pray, I'll let you do it for the first couple of years. All right? Don't do that after you get used to him. But first, if you got to do it, be like, I'm going to do 10 minutes with Jesus. 10 minutes? Yeah, 10 minutes. That's it? Let's see if that's it. That's not a lot, Father. Okay, cool. I'll see you next week, and we'll see if you've done it every day for the last 7 days. 10 minutes. You're like, that's not much. Fine, do it. Stop talking. 10 minutes, and if you have to look at your clock the whole time, then do it. Okay? But make it the 10 minutes. Decide how much time you're going to give him first. Then, now, okay, I'm a big fan. There's 2 ways to do this. Either way is okay. I'm a big fan of keeping it regular. If you make it in the morning thing, you do it, then you'll do it in the morning. You pour your cup of coffee, you do what you got to do with prayer, then you'll do it every morning mostly, okay? But I know very holy and good and wonderful people who decide 10 minutes and they just find it when they're going to do it, which is fine. The trick is what? Never let the good be the enemy of the perfect. I've said that so many times, they're going to write it on my gravestone, and I don't mind. Never let the good be the enemy of the perfect. That means if you can't do perfect, try for something. A lot of us fail because we go, well, if I didn't do it in the morning, then I won't do it at all. I was going to call you, Mom, for your birthday, but I missed it in the morning, so I decided not to call you. I didn't call you for Christmas, Mom. I thought of you the 26th in the morning, but I said, nope, I missed Christmas. Try for next year. Call her anyway. Never let the good be the enemy of the perfect, because then you just do nothing. And I can assure you, this is where we bring in our little enemy here, the devil. The devil loves for people to think that way. If you don't do it perfect, then you can't do nothing. He loves that. I don't want to pray now because I don't pray that much, so if I pray now, I'm only calling God when I need stuff, so I don't want to pray. That's just stupid. Do you only go to the doctor when you're healthy? That's just stupid. I was going to go to the doctor, but I don't go to the doctor that often, so I'm going to wait till I'm, healthier. After I've cured myself, then I'll go to the doctor. That's just stupid. But we all do it. Adam and Eve started. They got in trouble, and instead of running to God like, yo, we messed up, they're like, oh, run away. Because that's a good idea. Because you can run from God. Because he wasn't there when you messed up. Because he doesn't see you right now. Psalm 139, even if I travel to the farthest winds of the east, and even there I would be in your hand. So, decide how much time you're going to give it, and give it to him. If you have to do it, I know an awesome priest who does Mass midnight, 1 in the morning, because he wants to do Mass for every day or whatever, or he's doing it for that time, and he wants to be alone, or he wants to do it, he couldn't find a good time during the day, does it 1 in the morning. Setting up a Mass, like this, too. I don't mean like he has a church or a chapel. He'll be on vacation or a retreat house or on a trip, and he has a little Mass kit, and he'll set it. I'm like, oh, bruh. It's 1 in the morning. He's like, yeah, I'll be done by like 1:30. Then I do my rosary. It's like, bruh. Again, I'm a fan of the morning or getting it done early, so I don't have to do that, but I totally have, I've been part of that. I'm not going to lie. I've totally been part of that. I do that sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I'll be like, all right, this is going to hurt, but it'll hurt less once I'm done. So hurry up. Quit your crying and get it done. Get it done. 1, so decide on how much you're going to give God every day. 2, unless you can get to a church, which is the best place to pray, in a church, in front of the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, because God is there. It's much easier. But you can't always do that, because unless you're me, then you can't always get a church. I could do that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go find Jesus. Where is he? Oh, right, okay. Hello, Jesus. It's nice. It's nice to be a priest. Of course, the burden is there, then I can't excuse myself for not praying in front of him. So, that knife cuts. Then have a place in your home. Make something in your home. I'm not saying you have to get a whole altar and everything else, although if you want, that ain't going to hurt. But if you want to have a chair that you use, put a crucifix up. Crucifix is important. We'll get to that later. But crucifix up, maybe even light a candle. QV, I don't know if you guys still do this, but we tried to light a candle whenever we started our group and leave it lit so that we have it. Why? Seems like a small gesture, but it's a way of saying, whoa, candle's lit, chill. Because it's very easy for us to get distracted. We're like little balloons that float away, our minds, right? They float away. That's why churches look good. Churches should look good. Sacred places should look sacred. Why? Because your mind floats. I love when people go, I don't need anything sacred around me. I can pray wherever. Liar, liar, pants on fire. You are lying. That's why you can't pray in your house. Stop. Like Sundays, I pray in my house, that's enough. No, you're lying. You're lying because you get distracted. Stuff comes up. Don't tell me you have stillness in your house. You don't. Stop it. Be an honest thief. Be an honest thief. Be like, all right, I don't do it. I'm bad. All right? Hey, be an honest thief. You're a leg up. Go for it. But don't say, wait, you can do this. But if you are going to pray in your house for daily prayer, because you're going to pick how many minutes you're going to give him, or an hour or half an hour, then you're going to give a place. A place helps. Doctors talk about this for other things. They're like, if you have a certain kind of rhythm before you go to bed, you'll have a sleep rhythm that's better. If you have a certain rhythm in the morning, you'll make sure to get certain things done, right? People who have to take pills have to learn how to do that, right? They have to put their pills as part of something. People who don't take their pills, do they? People who do, they just wake up in the morning, and when the allergy season starts for me, first thing I do in the morning, literally with my cup of coffee, is pop a pill. Because otherwise, I'm crippled. And then I have no one to blame but me. And I'm a priest, so I almost always have morning mass. It's not like I could wait and take it later. Then I'm just sniveling through mass, which is nasty. So, and I can't say, wait, I'm not ready yet. Let me take it, and it's going to work in a few minutes. I'm too late. I've now ruined, maybe, or distracted mass, because the servant, the instrument, is distracting from the master. Not okay. So, you see, we have to be a rhythm. It helps. Okay? You know, a little chair that you use, mostly for that, especially spiritual reading. You have a hard time getting spiritual reading? Pick a chair, make that your chair. Live with someone else, like your husband, your wife, make it their chair too. Say, this is our chair for prayer. When I'm in this chair, be off. Be gone. But then you can't cheat and like use it for whatever you want. You have to use it only for prayer. I don't have time. Brad Pitt rule. You're lying. Brad Pitt rule was invented. Now, Brad Pitt's getting older, but I guess it still works. I guess you call it Channing Tatum rule, if you want. It was a rule to develop to teach guys to know when a girl likes them. Because you say to a girl, hey, let's go out. And she's like, I'm all right. I'm busy that day. So you're like, is she being nice? Or was she really busy, right? Now, she could just be clear and be like, ugh, never, as if. But that's a little bit hurtful, and most people don't want to do that. So maybe she's just being nice and letting you down nicer, or maybe she actually doesn't like you, or maybe she does like you and you can't tell. So what's the Brad Pitt rule? Change yourself with Brad Pitt and then see if she would react the same way. If Brad Pitt was like, hey, you want to go on Friday? She wouldn't be like, oh, it's movie night with my girlfriends. She'd be like, cool, yeah. And she'd call her girl and be like, girl, I'm going on Brad Pitt. And she'd be like, oh my God, girl. Like you'd hear her screaming on the other end. Come borrow my dress. Like that's all would happen. But if she gives you a massive reason, like I can't because I take my mother to chemotherapy. Yeah, that ain't her like pretending to be nice. That's serious. She's got something to do. You might be Brad Pitt. She'll say that. But she'll provide another time. I can't. What about Thursday, though? Okay, so she still likes you. You got me so far? Okay, for about a bunch of you, this is a useless thing to know. But you could share it to people who it is useful to. Okay? Hello? Hello? Useless. But you'll know. Brad Pitt rule is, to put it simply, people find time or energy or money for what they think is important. That's it. God should be on that list, or he's not important. God is important to me. What do you do for him? Okay. Ask an Olympian how much they work out 3 years before you speak to them. If you ever get to speak to an Olympian, but how much you work out June 12th, 2010, they'll probably be able to tell you. They're like, well, that was a couple of years before one of the. So I was at this level of training. What'd you do on the Thursday? What day was that? Thursday. Thursdays I did arms and legs of this and this because that's how they became an Olympian. How are you going to be a saint if you don't take it at least as seriously as an Olympian? That's what St. Paul says. They run for a crown that fades. We run for an everlasting crown of glory. See, it makes a little more sense if you just put it in modern context. But he's totally right, and he's totally said it better than me. But it's just a matter of saying we have to. The Brad Pitt rule. You got to put it on that list. So daily prayer is key. Ask for that amazing grace. He will give it to you. It's one of those prayers he'll say yes to. 10 prayers God always says yes to. Why is it there? Because the author said, well, there's prayers God will say no to. The racist prayer. Jesus, kill all the Mexicans. Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I'm sure he didn't say that, but he's a little racist. All right? I'm sorry. He's a little racist. I'm sorry. I'm sure he didn't pray that way, but he's racist. I'm sorry. But Jesus is going to say no to that prayer. It's a bad prayer. Okay. Oh, that's a silly prayer, but you could be like, well, Jesus, I hope you punish that person because they're a bad person. He's going to say, thanks, I'm God. I'll take care of it. Thanks so much for your suggestion. I know how to take care of punishment. So he'll say prayers that he says no to. There's prayers that he might answer, right? I need a new job, or I need a new car, or help me with this, or whatever. Sometimes say yes, sometimes say no. But then there's definitely prayers he says yes to. Logic dictates if there's always no, there's always yeses, there's maybes, there must be no's. So then what are the yeses? And one of them is, give me the grace to obey you. Always going to say yes. But a lot of times try to obey him and then ask for the grace later, right? I'm struggling with this sin. I'll go to confession after I beat it because I don't want to just say I just sinned that way. Nope. It's like, I'm going to get healthy, then I'll go to the doctor. Useless. I'm going to put the fire out, then definitely 911, though, right after. I'm a little embarrassed about calling the fireman because I caused the fire. But we do that with our prayer life all the time. We're in sin, so we don't pray. You kidding? That's the first attack the devil uses. What does he do to Adam and Eve? They run away and hide from God instead of running to him and saying, we messed up. How different would our world be if maybe they had run that way? I don't know. So, place for God, time for God each day. Make God an important part of your life, Brad Pitt rule. Now what? What do you pray for? Amongst asking for grace, but also intercede for others. Intercede for people around you. And look, that should be easy after yesterday afternoon. Because we started with the skank, nastiest people on our world. That just, blech. So praying for everybody we like should be a joke. Like after that, you do that one. All right? Offering up, well, I went over it yesterday. Why? Because you offer up anything. Offer up your tiredness. Offer up your backaches. Offer up the traffic that you have to sit in. Instead of yelling at traffic that's not going to move anyway, offer it up. Offer up your struggle not to yell. I'm going to yell. I'm going to hold on for 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds go to somebody. All right, but I yelled. All right, cool, but hey, the 10 seconds you didn't was a step. Might as well get the mileage out of it. You're going to suffer anyway. Here's the thing. You're going to suffer anyway. Might as well get mileage out of it. You get what I'm trying to say here? Like, you're going to get something out of it, right? Isn't that how people say the secret to healthy life is? People who are healthy. I'm not into that, but they're like, I'm not. Stop it. People who are like, just take the stairs or walk an extra block or things like that, right? Because if you integrate working out or a little bit of health into your daily life, it might be a little bit easier to do. Well, spiritual health should at least get as much attention. I mean, healthy people also say what? You have to have a regimen of exercise and diet. If you don't, you won't. You have to say, I'm going to get up. I don't care how tired I am. Every morning, even if I was out till 4, at 5 I'm going to get up. And even if I just walk, I'm going to walk for a mile. They'll say that. I've heard people because they're really trying to convince me. And I'm like, ha! Wasting your breath. But they're trying to tell me so. I'm like, very good. You should stop. But it's the same thing. No matter how tired you are, do your 10 minutes. There have been times, I'm not going to lie. There have been times I've walked to the chapel barely dressed, which I don't like doing. But it's in my own rectory and there's nobody around. But I just don't like doing it because I'm like, come on, do this. I find that you stay up more if you dress all the way. It's an old study trick from procrastinators. If you want to wake up at 3 in the morning and write a paper, put your shoes on. What? It helps you study because you feel like you're more dressed. But I've gone to the chapel barely functioning with the coffee and just sat there and I have nothing. And that's the content of the conversation. I'll be back. I need more coffee. Go get more coffee. Sit down. Father Antonio walked into me a couple of times like that. Usually he didn't see me like that. I was on point. Once he was like, oh. I was like, hey, good morning. He's like, I'll come back. He would just go away. He's supposed to be the grumpy one. I wasn't grumpy. I was just like, I got nothing. Hey. That's what you get. I'm not angry. I have nothing to give you. I have nothing for anyone. But it's there. You drag yourself there. But you know what? That'll be better than some days. Some days will be nothing. So it's better to do that. Okay? Pray for your families. You are bound to them, so you have more of a power. Your prayers have more of a power. You're already bound to them. God chose you to be bound to them. You didn't choose it. My family's all holy. Good. Pray more. You'll get some of that. Some of you have holy families. Some of you have holy families. Stop it. I didn't actually mean that as a joke. Oh, that's terrible. Some of you do. Okay? Somebody. Come on, your grandma. Come on, your grandma. Okay? Pray for her too. You'll get some, all right? Because it comes back. And some of you have miserable families. Fine. Pray for them. But they're not changing, Father. Oh, okay, let's go back to the conversation about an uneven relationship with God. Something doesn't happen, so I get angry at God. Oh, that's nice. Do you let him get angry with you when you don't do something for him? No? Oh, okay. So it's uneven relationship. Be patient. Or pray because maybe he's waiting. They have to be ready to receive the grace. Grace is there, but he can't shove it down your throat. So if you don't want it, he's got to wait. But he's not forgetting your prayers. He's adding them up. St. Augustine said his mother, Monica, prayed for him, and they were her tears. But, to wet the earth that's very, very dry, to plant a seed, you have to get a lot of water, because the first water is just absorbed immediately. So he carried her tears in his hands, God, until there was enough of them, and then he poured them all out on him at once. And that was his conversion. How long was that? 30 years. If you've prayed for 30 years for someone, good, you're in good company. Keep going. See if you can beat St. Monica. If you have not, then shut up. Because you at least have a goal. So when you hit 30, we could talk. And then I'll be like, great, beat her. Monica, St. Augustine came, one of the greatest saints in the church. Still is. And what's awesome, St. Augustine, St. Monica celebrated feast days, 27th and 28th of August. That's awesome. To be right next door to your mom. That's cool. Because she was the one who dragged you into heaven, fighting, screaming, and kicking, and yelling. That's pretty cool. She gets, the 27th is her, 28th is him of August. That's awesome. By the way, they're also the only two saints that we know of. There might have been others. They're the only two saints in the history of the church, 2,000 years, that shared a vision. What? No, a lot of people shared a vision. No, a lot of people had visions of the same thing. There's a difference. They were in it. They both saw heaven and they were in it together. And far as we know, they're the only two that have that. Because even the Fatima kids saw Mary, but it was an apparition, not a vision. They weren't in it. And they only saw, they didn't. So, for the record, that we know of, the only two. They were both in it together. Usually it's a one-person thing, but they were so bonded, so united through her prayers. Because when you pray for someone, you're closer to them. They were so bonded and so united through their prayers that they got that very, very, very unique, interesting grace. Right before she died, she got to see that. And it was to get her ready to die. She died a little bit later. Okay? Prayer for your families. Next one is monthly confession. The minimum you should be going is every 3 months. Let the season remind you, right? Snow falls, go to confession. Snow melts, you see flowers, go to confession. Summer heat comes, go to confession. Leaves fall, go to confession. You get me? But seriously, if you really want to move, you got to go every month. When? Just pick a time. Stop it. Go to the church. We live in a first world country. You're good. You can go. What if the priest is skank? That's okay. It makes the virtue more for you. Because he's an instrument of God, and you're showing that you believe in God that he represents, not in him. Even better. Don't get me wrong. All right, sometimes you're not going to be able to, then go somewhere else. But if you can get through the priest, however horrible he seems, hey, fine. But go. Go anywhere. Just go. Just go. Have your regular confessor if you can, but if not, just go. Check in with your regular confessor then. You'll be fine. But go. Go often. Make it part of... Now, that's not counting emergencies. If you have an emergency, it means if you fall in mortal sin, then go faster. Okay, that's not counting emergencies. But go. By the way, some people go way more than that. And they're fine. People go weekly. My understanding is St. John Paul the Great went daily. What can you say when you're daily? You've never worn glasses. I clean my glasses between Mass and this conference, and I already see spots that I can clean on them. Because the cleaner they are, the more you can see that you can clean. You get what I'm trying to say? It's the difference between guy clean and woman clean. Hey, clean the house. Okay, it's clean. And then he goes, and there's a whole other clean. And then you have abuela clean, right? You have the third level of clean, the old lady clean. My old lady brigade in all my churches have been like, old ladies, come in. And they just march in. An hour later, the church smells clean. I remember somebody came to visit me, and she was like, I could tell this was your church. And I was like, oh, okay. Some things, and it smells clean. And I was like, really? She goes, is that Mistolin? Probably. Probably. Yeah, probably. There's levels of cleanness. Well, when you get to heaven, do you want him to go, well, you're mostly all right, but let me see what I can fix and figure? Or do you want him to go, wow, old lady clean soul. Nice. One's a lot easier to deal with than the other. Nightly examine. Examine your conscience every night. By the way, if you examine your conscience every night, you'll have an easier time going to confession. What? Oh, I get it. Because if you do that every night, then you'll have a nice, fresh idea of what you're doing.
God bless you.
Bless you. And on top of that, extra benefit, this is not part of the retreat. This is a little present like the other one about past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. This is a little present has nothing to do with the retreat. I'm going to turn this off. No, I'm kidding. Okay. The people who go to confession often and do examination of conscience often are always more patient with other people. Because if you're aware that you're not that great, then you're much more patient with the people around you. That's not how to do with our retreat, because it doesn't. But that's a little pro tip present for you. It will always make you more patient. So don't do it for you. Do it for the people you live with. They can tolerate you better. You could tolerate them better. It's a win-win. Okay, back on the retreat. So, do a nightly examine. If you don't know what to examine, 10 Commandments is fine. Get a booklet or a pamphlet. Get the confession app. Get the iBreviary app. Get the Laudate app. Get any app you want. Just don't get an app. Just get online and look up confession for Catholics. Examination for Catholics. Or use the oldest one after the 10 Commandments, the second oldest one. Use the Bible. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 8. You've heard it before, because, weddings are changing. Used to every wedding had that. Now I've been to a number of weddings that don't have it, but love is patient, love is kind. Love does not boast in evil, but rejoices in the truth. You know that one? Put your name where the word love is, and then see how your day was. Now you got something to say. I don't know what I do wrong. Try that. Let's start from breakfast. Let's start from breakfast. Go through that. Then when you go to confession, you'll have something to say. Because you'll say, I'm not always that patient. I'm not always that kind. Sometimes I'm a little bit rejoices in lies. Yeah, I kind of was amused by that. I did boast a little bit. I wanted people to know what I did. Go through that one. It's very helpful. Mother Teresa used that, by the way. That was her examination of conscience. I learned that from her spiritual director. If that guy can make Mother Teresa, then I figure he could do a pretty good job with us, right? The car is awesome. The guy who made the car is even awesomer. Right? Saints, and then the person who made the saint, I'm like, hey, I go to that guy. So, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 8. I mean, the whole little section there, 1 to like 12, is pretty beautiful to read. But the actual part of this. First letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 4 to 8. Let's talk about love. Next point. Ready? So we did prayer. Now let's talk about our next point is love, since we're talking about love. Love and charity is the same thing. Okay? You know that, right? The word charity, the word love, they're literally the same word. In Latin is caritas. See? English is... Charity is a fancier word of love. Unfortunately, nowadays we treat them as separate things, but they're not. An act of love is an act of charity. An act of charity, more importantly, is an act of love. You with me so far? Yes, okay. It's about your actions, in other words. Notice the word act. You have to do something to love. You have to serve. Parable, Matthew chapter 21, verses 28 to 32. Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 21, verses 28 to 32. It's a parable of two sons. Jesus says, let me tell you this parable of two sons. A man tells his two sons to go out and work in the vineyard. The first son says no, but then later felt badly and went. The second son said yes, but then did not do it. Which of these two did the master's will? Correct. The Pharisees say the exact same thing, and then he just nails him. He's like, right, so bam, and he just hits him. Because he says, well, John the Baptist told you to do stuff. See, there's John the Baptist again. John the Baptist told you to do stuff, you didn't listen. Prostitutes and money changers did. That's why they're going to heaven first. Faculty. But that parable is very powerful. Which of the one that does the Father's will? The one who does it. You have to do, guys. A lot of our slumps, sometimes we want to get out of the slump before we do something. That's the wrong way to deal with a slump. A lot of us get in a spiritual funk. I just don't want to do anything because I'm in a spiritual funk. Wrong. Try again. Do it, and it will get you out of the funk. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's very key because it's almost programmed into us to do the opposite. We're almost instinctively going to do the opposite of that, which is wrong. I mean, it's wrong to do that. Okay. And a lot of us are what we call practical atheists. Practical atheist is a person who doesn't call themselves an atheist, but practically speaking, in terms of the way their lives are, they're atheists. If I'm not one, trust me, you have one that you know very well, probably related to one, at least one. I'm a Christian. I don't do this. I'm a Christian. I don't do that. Then you're not a Christian. You're an atheist in everything but the term. Which of these sons did his father's will? The one who says, I'm a Christian but doesn't? Or the one who says, I'm a filthy sinner and I'm terrible but does? You get why I read that parable? Or why I summarized that parable? Well, the same thing for us who say, I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering, but not there. Mm-mm. Act of love, and so this is a point, guys. An act of love may not feel like it. That's okay. Your feelings don't always guide you. We went over that already. Because it goes against your will. That's fine, but get it done. Your vocation, right? How do you serve God in your walk of life? You're a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, or whatever. I don't know. You're married, you're not married, you're a priest, you're not a priest, whatever it is. Your vocation is not about what you want. It's about what God wants. So you serve God how He wants. And serving God in your vocation is, you'll start doing it better the more you serve, the more you do to fulfill it. We said this first conference. Amazing grace, right? Because it saves us. But, because God saves you. Nobody saves themselves. Nobody saves themselves. That's a temptation we have. But the other side is also important to avoid the temptation, which is that we must cooperate with grace. If you do not cooperate with grace, it doesn't work. Anthony DeStefano in his book, I think it's called Angels All Around Us, but it's in one of his books. I think it's called Angels All Around. I think it's that one. But in one of his books, he has that great story to explain grace, the function of grace. He says, well, God and forgiveness. He says, God does everything for you, like a locksmith. If you get locked out of your house and you call a locksmith, the locksmith will come. You have to prove who you are. Then he will what? Drill the door out. Drill out the valve or the cylinder. He'll replace the cylinder. He'll do this. He'll do that. He'll fix it. He'll replace it. He'll talk to you probably. Or maybe he's one of those that doesn't talk. He'll do that. He'll get done. He'll replace the cylinder, make some keys, give you the keys, shake your hand, and walk away. So He's opened the door for you. Yes? Are you in your house yet? No, because you have to get in the door. Would you want him to carry you and tuck you upstairs and make dinner? No, his job is a locksmith. That's your house. God's grace will help you, but you have to go through the door. He opens the door. Salvation is there. You have to go through it. Yeah, but it's hard. Oh, well, that's on you. Then you're saying no. But you can't say, how come I'm not a good person if I'm saying yes to God, but I said no here? That's not fair. He's going to go use and say yes then. Surrender is not a gift that you take back. Surrender is a gift you give completely. Mary's fiat. We went over this too. What Mary's fiat, her let it be done unto me, and then what does she do? She goes and serves Elizabeth. She receives this amazing blessing. Of all the people in the world that could say, you need to be nice to me. I'm pregnant. You have to be nice to me. That is the winner of all people that could say that. She doesn't. She says, I'm pregnant. Oh my God. Wait, she's pregnant too? I'm going to go help her. And she runs off. Like Mary was going to know what to do. You know that, right? You realize Mary helping Elizabeth, not part of the retreat. Important though. You know, Mary helping Elizabeth is a sign of how close they are. Not of her usefulness. Mary is useless in this situation. Father, no. Think about it. Pregnant women in the room. Women who've had children in the room. Who did you go to when you were pregnant and you had questions? To your virgin? To your virgin cousin who's never even been with a man? Yeah, she's going to be super helpful. Like, she's going to know everything that happens. No! You go to the one who had like 6 kids, right? The warrior that had like 20 kids. And you're like, yo, you got to help me because this is like Tuesday for you. What's up? Right? And see, that's the thing. Those are the people that will be most useful. Now, but Mary goes. I don't know what to offer you, but I can offer you my arms and my legs. What a beautiful gesture. And Elizabeth calls for her. Elizabeth and Mary were much closer, and there's more humanity there than people realize. People think, oh, they just helped her because why? What possible use? Oh, maybe Elizabeth was going to help Mary. Oh, Elizabeth, who could never have a kid? They were literally useless to each other. They're like the worst two people to put together to talk about pregnancy. Because you got one who's old, probably a danger pregnancy, we would call right now. A high-risk pregnancy. And then you have one who just... Be like, we're going to help. Okay. That must have been the awesomest and insanest house ever. Like, Zachariah's like, bro, I'm going outside. He doesn't show up in the, when Mary gets there, and she, my soul forgot. Zachariah and Joseph are not there, because I'd like to think they're outside, like, bruh. And he's like, bruh. And then, because they were like happy and yelling and kissing and crying and hugging and everything, but they also didn't know what they were doing. So you see, there's an intimacy there, there's a humanity there that we don't always notice. Okay, go back to the retreat. Sorry. The gifts we receive are not for us. The gifts we receive are to serve others. Any gift you have right now, whether it's your physical gifts, your spiritual gifts, your emotional gifts, your gifts or the skills that you've developed, your character gifts, any of those, they're not for you. They're to help others. Because we're all in this together. We're all in this together. G.K. Chesterton used to define Catholicism or Christianity as that. Catholicism, it means here comes everyone. Like, that was how he defined it. That's about right. We let everybody in. It's like, yeah, whatever, where were you born? Cool, whatever, come on. It's cool, come on. The priesthood. The power of the priesthood is amazing. And I can't do a thing for myself. If we're on a plane that's going to crash, I hope I went to confession. Because I can absolve everyone but me. Can't do a thing for myself. Nothing. I can't baptize myself, can't confirm myself, can't absolve myself. Do you see? It's about the church. The power of the priesthood. Mighty power. No angel and no prophet. Elijah, as awesome as he was, couldn't do what I can do. Absolve the sin. Just like that. Elijah was awesome. Can't do it. St. Michael himself, guardian angel, archangel, can't do what I can do. What I can do poorly, what I can do in a state of sin, or I can do distractedly, or I can do half paying attention. He can't even do that. That's the power that God gives us. The trust he has, by the way, for us. But then that also means that we have to make sure to use it. Now, we went back to something about surrender. Do you remember the story I told you about that young woman who inspired the priest to write that song, Take, Lord, Receive? She changed. She came back with peace and with joy. Because in serving others, you will receive. And any of you who's served anybody in any form probably can tell that sometimes you feel like you got more out of it than you gave. Queen of Martyrs has a dinner for Christmas. It's beat at the end of that Christmas dinner every year. But I swear I got more than what I did. I don't know if everybody volunteered felt that way, but I think a lot of us did. Because you're like, why do we do this? The retreats I've helped out at, the parishes I've been at, I swear I get more out of than what I put in. Now that's active ministry, but you don't even have to go that fancy. You can go very, very simple. One of beautiful gift of mercy that we do for little babies, right? We help them. Can you help me tie my shoelace? Yeah, come here. You tie it. You don't mind. They did nothing, and yet you feel like you got something out of it. It's cute, and it's fun, and it's great, and you feel kind of warm inside. Help a little kid. When you give, you'll get out of it. But that giving goes first, and that's the problem. Sometimes what am I getting out of it? Stop. Give. The come out of it will come out of it. Another one, we said this before, I'm going to reemphasize this. Right? False religion, false Christianity is what God wants. The Lord wants to bless you. He wants to open up doors for you. God asked his own son to die. As the letter of the Philippians says, even death on a cross. They know how bad it is. Do you think he would ask less of you? He's going to ask you to sacrifice. What he will give you will come, but you have to give all the way. Mother Teresa used to say, give until it hurts. That's my answer to people who go, give, and the Lord will bless me, the Lord will open me up. And I just said, Mother Teresa, stop it. I definitely trust that lady more. And so you have to give, but you have to sacrifice, even the stuff you don't want to. The stuff you want most, the story of Abraham. Right? Abraham, yes, Lord, take your son, Isaac, your only son, the son whom you love. He says it 3 times in like 2 verses. I've looked at that verse over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. When my last parish, St. Dennis, was closing, that's what I prayed it with Abraham. And I preached on it the day I had to tell people we're closing. I said, we're going to do everything we can to stay open, but I promise you I'm going up this mountain and I will sacrifice you. I said, I consider this parish my family. God's asking me for the family that he gave me. I'm going up this mountain with your help or without it. I'd like you to help me. If he's going to send an angel at the last second to stop you, it's going to be at the top of the mountain, not at the bottom. So we're going up this mountain together. Who will come with me? Because I prayed on that verse a lot. That was literally like I emblazoned it on my heart. But how God does it, he kind of twists the knife, doesn't he? Take your son, Isaac, your only son, the one whom you love. I know who it is. Thanks. I only got the one. I'm cool. I'm definitely clear on who it is, Jesus. He does it on purpose because the sacrifice has to be whole. It has to be complete. It can't be like, well, fine, I won't think about it much. I'm going to make sure you think about it. That's what he asks of Abraham. You see? So next time you hear that fake gospel of, oh, no, listen to me. It won't do a thing for you. Think of Elijah and the false prophets. Nothing will happen because no one was listening because there's no one there. Don't do it. No, but maybe God, listen to me. Nothing will happen because no one is listening because no one is there. That is not the gospel. That's the cross. That's Christ without the cross. No such thing. So, going back to it, we have the goals now. Goals in your life. If I asked you to list all the goals in your life, what do you want for the new year? Would we put holiness, or would we have put holiness on that list? We need to. Don't Instagram that. New Year's resolution, holiness by the end of January. I mean, you know what? Do it. I don't even care. I'll get back on Instagram and like it. Okay? I will get back on. I haven't been on it in I don't know how long. I'll get back on just for that, okay? No, but it is a goal that I have to have here. Where was I 5 years ago spiritually? Am I in the same place? I probably shouldn't be. You either move up or you move down. No such thing as standing still in the spiritual life. No such thing as standing still in a relationship. Every relationship is either growing deeper or growing colder. Every relationship, that's not part of the retreat, but it's a real present for you. Every relationship is either growing deeper or growing colder. And you know that because you hear couples who have problems and they go, we just kind of got in a rut. Not okay. Find someone dressed like this and get some help immediately. And if he can't help you because he's not a marriage counselor, but he might know some things to start you off, he'll refer you to a marriage counselor. You got to go. You got to go. Because that's a bad deal. No relationship stays the same. You either grow deeper or you get colder. Those are the only ways we go. Because a tree doesn't stay the same. A Trees are either dying or growing. There's no such thing as anything else. Trees, you may not hardly tell, but it's definitely growing or it's definitely dying. Did you ever think of holiness as a goal? Well, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14. Letter of St. Paul, letter to the Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14. Strive, work, strive for that holiness, without which you will not see the Lord. Strive for that holiness, without which you will not see the Lord. Greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your mind, all your soul, all your strength. We heard a version of it last night, because that was the Deuteronomy version, right? The lector read it. But Jesus adds mind to that one, by the way. He adds mind. Mind, heart, soul, strength. It's not the greatest suggestion. It's not the greatest. If you got it, you could fit it on your to-do list at the bottom. It's the greatest commandment. Loving God. Holiness is a byproduct of loving God. Remember? We all know that. So, love God. And then what's the second greatest commandment? Love your neighbor like you love yourself. See? By the way, that's where that loving your God, the least you love yourself. I love God as much as I love the person I love the least. The logic in that is because you love your neighbor as yourself. You're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. So you got to love your neighbor more. Because you definitely love yourself more. I definitely do. I may hate people. I don't care if you eat, but I'm eating. And I got to make sure you eat. Like you can't. Love is doing what is best for someone. So what is best for God? That's what Christ the model. What did Jesus do? He did what was best for us, which involved him dying on the cross. He's like, what's the best for them? Okay, I'll die. Whatever gets your loved ones to heaven. Whatever gets your loved ones to heaven, guys. People as my soulmate. Does he care for your soul? Okay. You have to teach him how to love. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you made a mistake. You have to find someone else. No, or teach him how to love. Either one. You pick it. But he's not loving your soul. He has to love you to get to heaven. That's what Christ did. Again, go back to our model. But his answer was much more terrifying. I'm sorry. Jesus beats us at poker every time. Jesus, I had to give up my family, my country. I became a missionary. And I died on the cross. Are you serious? Bruh? Like you lose. He always raises you. And he always... But that's that reciprocal relationship. He gives as much as he can. He's God. A big 2-liter of Pepsi. It's full. And we're like a little, Dixie cup of Pepsi. But we got to be full, okay? We got to be full with what we give. Just this much. Okay? He gives a whole lot more, but as long as you're full, he's happy. Give all you can. Last kind of major thing, weaknesses. So many times we let ourselves be limited by our strengths or our weaknesses, honestly. I'm doing this because I'm good at it, But I'm not good at that, Jesus, so I'm going to stop doing that. No. Remember what I said earlier about when you have a place to pray, get a crucifix? I'm a big fan of crosses. You can't have enough, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't wear them because I'm not allowed. Tradition of the church and the rubrics of the church say a priest, not a bishop, is not allowed to wear anything over his blacks. That's why I don't wear my pocket watch on my vest, even though I totally would. Look at this look. Come on. Huh? Oh. It looks better. What time is it? Right? I can't. I'm not allowed. So that's why I don't. But I love crosses. The purificator has a cross. The chalice has a cross. The paten has a cross. So when I celebrate Mass, cross. Usually you put a cross on the altar in front of you to remind the priest that, or crucifix better, but to remind the priest that the sacrifice is not his. It's Christ's. If we wouldn't have to do that if we were all facing the same cross. But that's a conversation for another day. It's cool. Whatever. But it's to remind the priest constantly. His vestments have crosses on them. Okay. A crucifix is very, very important. You know the difference, right? Okay, I say cross because vestments have cross, but crucifix is preferable. Crucifix has the body on it. Cross is just the beams. Okay? Crucifix is preferable. Why is a crucifix important? Because it reminds you of your weaknesses, because God shows you his. Christ, at his most weak, did his greatest work. Christ, when he had nothing, when he was absolutely embarrassed and stripped and taken from everything, that's when he won his greatest victory. No friends. No family. What do you mean? Mary was always faithful, right? And what did he ask her to do right before he died? Take care of somebody else. God even gave up her. No clothing. Why do we always paint Jesus with clothes? Anyone? It's not because we're prudish, although now it might be that, but originally, traditionally, it's because out of respect for him. It's not, but accurately speaking, he's naked. He's stripped. 10th station of the cross, Jesus is stripped. Because the Romans did it on purpose to really embarrass him more. That's when the Romans, they wanted to punish you more, you know. No friends, no nobody. Even his one follower who was faithful, St. John, which is why St. John is always held as highest of all of the apostles. Peter is the highest rank, but John is always held as the holiest of the Gospels, the highest of theology. He's also the one who lives longest, and a lot of them say it's because of that. He remained true to Jesus. So he got the blessing to live the longest. The way he died was pretty rough. He was like tortured, and they tried to kill him a few times. He didn't die for lack of trying on part of the Romans. God kept him alive. I'm just saying, it's called the dry martyrdom of St. John. Seriously, he went through a lot. But he has nothing. And that's when he wins his victory. And he goes out of his way to make sure he has nothing, doesn't he? Remember, Peter pulls out a sword. He's like, we got this. We'll save you. He's like, no. I've got to do this. Who do you look for? And what do they say? With Jesus now, he's, I am. So what? We read it, I am. I am is the name of God. One of the Gospels reports very clearly, St. John's, who was there, says they fall over. Because whenever God speaks his name in the Old Testament, it causes an earthquake. I am. It's like saying, Fusro Da. No, okay. So he says that, and they fall over. And they go again. I am. They fall over. Finally, come again. He wants to make sure this is done. He's completely empty, completely free, completely with nothing, completely weak, doing only the Father's will. Not my will, but your will be done. And that's when he does the most. That's why a crucifix is handy to have. Because when you feel weak, you look and you go, okay, well, you did this when you were weak, so I hope I can do the same. You got me? We limit ourselves according to our weaknesses very often. We need to let God work in our weaknesses. That's the most when Jesus can get in the way. Well, we can get out of Jesus' way and let him take over. That's the best. That's it right there. When you are half asleep, exhausted, in a bad mood, and just doing it because you said you were going to do it, then guess what? Anything good that comes out of it wasn't you. With your delightful, sunny disposition. Clearly, you can definitely see it was God. And if you haven't had that happen to you, you ain't been walking with Jesus long enough, because all of us have had it happen to us. There are days that you gave your C game. You did not bring your A game or your B game. You brought your C game, and something amazing happened. You're like, whoa, for real? You still Catholic? Because I really would have changed if I was you. That's when you know it's God's grace. That's when he needs to work. Look at every visionary of Mary. They're children. They're handicapped. They're uneducated. They're the wrong race. Juan Diego. He's not a child, he's not handicapped. He's not educated, but he's simply educated. But he's the wrong race. He should have been a Spaniard for the Spaniards to listen to him. They turn him away, right? The bishop, John Zumarraga, turns him away. Because he's, how dare you? Ew, you can't come talk. You cannot come talk to the bishop. You brown. All brown all around outside. All white, all right in here. And what does the bishop say? No, well, I'm just saying that was what it was. And the bishop confesses this in his letters later. He's like, I was racist and I shouldn't have. I was wrong. The bishop says this. I mean, he says, I turned him away because I didn't want to even try to do. And what does the bishop ask for? Roses. So, roses from Spain. That's messed up. Roses in December is hard to get. He's like, I want Castilian roses. That's messed up. That's just mean. That's just an extra thrown in there. Like, and of course, our Blessed Mother produces it. The visionaries everywhere. Every other visionary of our Blessed Mother, who do they pick? The weakest, the smallest. Who's David, the youngest and the smallest of his family, right? There's 7 brothers. And Jesse's like, ah. Samuel's like, uh-uh. And Jesse's like, ha. Okay, no, but he's the 3rd, but ha. You wonder how many they went through. You don't yell at a prophet, so you're like, okay. And they get through them. God always picks the weakest. We need to let God work. And if we don't, because we're too weak, that's our lack of surrender. I'm sorry, we're going back to square one. We want to control, not him. Mother Teresa's line, give God permission. What a great line. Mother Teresa, how did you change the world again? Oh, give God, wow, that's really simple. Her 2 phrases that she repeated, what? Give God permission and you did it to me. That Matthew, like we looked at yesterday. She said those 5 words, you did it to me. Whatsoever you do to the least member, you did. She was like, that's what I was remembering. Oh, that's simple enough to work. I mean, it worked. So what? Last word. Well, 4 words. Word in like the old-timey sense of like a sentence. Okay? Don't be like, oh, one word. Okay? I'm not Mother Teresa. Okay? One. This is important. It's one of the first things we said this weekend. It's one of the last things you should hear. God loves you. God loves you, not humanity. All of us love humanity. The worst of us love humanity. God loves you. That's very important. And the whole idea of surrender has to depend on that fact, because how can you surrender to someone you don't trust, and how can you trust someone who you don't think loves you? So you got to start with God's love. And really, you just got to sit with that thought daily. Fit it in your 10 minutes. Give it 2 minutes of just thinking about God's love. Seriously. Number 2, you have a plan. God has a plan. God's plan is better. You have a plan. I know you have a plan. You might even adjust it to God's plan. Good. But always make your plans conditional. That's better. You have a plan. God has a plan. His plan is better. It is. And he's going to change it on you. Because you don't get nowhere with one turn. Come on. You can't get anywhere. And you cannot get to the store. It's actually a good bit far away. The general store is on Route 9 off of 52. It's a bit far away. But you cannot get to the store with one turn. I made like 10. Still can't get to the store. Okay? Number 3, you are in a relationship with God. You got to remember that, because we don't always think of that. You're in a relationship with God. And if you want, I can add to that one and say, and he's already shown his part and his love in the relationship. So what you going to do? It's an important fact. And it's much better, much healthier to look at your relationship. Your image of God is really important. If you notice how many of these go to your image of God, all of them, basically. And the last thing to say, the first thing we said, to surrender is to love. It's not to lose. It's not to quit. It's not to despair. It's not even to give up. To surrender is to love. Look how helpless a big, strong father is in the hands of his baby. Completely helpless. Her smile makes the world move. And without it, he's dead. Big, strong, giant, big guy. Put his daughter or his son in his hands. Nothing else matters. He's helpless. Her every whim is his goal. Love, the same way. Look how helpless we become when we fall in love. Look how helpless you are in the love of your relationships, of your friendships. You are okay with looking stupid in front of your friends, and if you're not, then you don't have real friends. Sorry. Where do you think cosplay comes from? People looking stupid in front of their friends. Because they're friends. It's like, I'm going to dress up like, okay, because it's your friends. If you can't, then you're not that close. Because you're helpless in front of them, and that's okay. Because to surrender is to love. How about we stand? Where are the books? No, the missal, the big books. Okay, we'll leave them there. We'll stand. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.